The December rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows as Blake Henderson paced his executive office. His charcoal suit couldn't hide the tension radiating from his shoulders. At 32, he'd built a $3 billion empire. Yet his grandmother's ultimatum had stripped him of control. Bring a serious girlfriend to Christmas, or I'm selling my shares to the board. He stared at the photo on his desk. His father alone when his heart gave out 5 years ago. Surrounded by contracts instead of family, Blake didn't believe in love. Love made you weak, vulnerable, destroyable, but he needed a solution. The soft knock on his door barely registered. "Mr. Henderson, I'm here to clean." He turned. The night shift cleaner stood in the doorway, clutching her supplies. Oversized navy uniform, messy bun, eyes downcast. But when she glanced up, he saw them. Amber eyes holding both strength and something broken. An idea crystallized. "What's your name?" "Nilofer Starling, sir." "Nilofer." He walked toward her, watching her pulse quicken at his approach. "Tell me, do you need money?" The question hit her like a slap. Her father's surgery bills had destroyed her savings. Her landlord was threatening eviction. "Yes, sir." "Very much." Blake's lips curved. "I have a proposition. Pretend to be my girlfriend for 5 days over Christmas. My family expects someone serious. You'll need to be convincing, affectionate, handle high society scrutiny." Her eyes widened. "I couldn't pull that off. I'm not from your world. That's why you're perfect. You're genuine, real." He moved closer, his cologne wrapping around her. "I'll pay you $50,000. 50,000. The number sang through her mind like salvation. What if they discover the truth? They won't. Starting tomorrow, you're mine for 5 days. I'll provide everything. Wardrobe, jewelry, coaching. All you do is look at me like you're madly in love." Her hands trembled. It was insane, reckless. But beneath his cold exterior, she recognized her own loneliness reflected back. "I'll do it." Something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction, mixed with hunger? Understand this, Nilofer. Purely business. Don't confuse the act with reality. I'm not capable of love. I have nothing to offer beyond the money. She nodded, ignoring her heart's warning. "I understand. Mr. Henderson, call me Blake." When we're alone, removing the elastic from her hair. Honeyed waves tumbled around her shoulders. His fingers lingered against her neck. "Much better. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. We have work to do." As he stepped back, Nilofer felt the air between them. Crackle was something neither would name. She'd just made a deal with a man who claimed he had no heart, but his touch had burned like fire. Against her skin, winter sunshine cut through the city as Blake's black sedan pulled up at 8 sharp. Nilofer hadn't slept. Terror and excitement had kept her staring at her ceiling, wondering what she'd agreed to. Blake emerged wearing dark jeans, cashmere, and leather. Less CEO, more dangerously attractive man. Her resolve to keep things professional cracked immediately. Ready for your transformation? The boutique district glittered with exclusivity. Salespeople recognized Blake instantly, rushing to assist. He selected pieces with surprising expertise, his eyes assessing how each would look on her body. In the private dressing room, Nilofer tried on an emerald green cocktail dress. Silk against her skin, deep V-neckline bearing more than she'd ever dared. Every curve she didn't know she had suddenly visible. She stepped out. Blake was mid-phone call. He stopped. His eyes traveled slowly from her heels upward, following every line of her body. He ended the call without another word. Perfect. His voice had dropped an octave. Heat flooded her face as he circled her slowly. "We need to practice," he said. "Physical comfort. My family will notice if we're awkward together." Before she could respond, his hand settled on her lower back. The touch burned through the thin silk. He pulled her closer. "Relax. This is part of the act." But there was nothing relaxed about the way her body responded. Nothing fake about the electricity crackling between them. "Tell me about yourself," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. I need to know you. Make this believable. What do you want to know? Why are you drowning in debt with an art history degree? The question stung. I believed in something beautiful. Turned out the world doesn't pay for beauty. It pays for utility. Something shifted in his expression. I understand that more than you think. Do you? She pulled back slightly, meeting his eyes. You built an empire. You have everything. I have nothing that matters. The words came out raw, unguarded. He seemed surprised he'd said them. The moment stretched between them, heavy with truth. His phone shattered the silence. He glanced at the screen, and his jaw tightened. We leave for my family estate in 2 hours. There's something you should know. He turned away, tension returning to his shoulders. My ex-fiancée will be there, Victoria. She's marrying my business partner next month, the one who betrayed your father. Blake's eyes snapped to hers. You did your research. No, you just told me everything in that one sentence. He stared at her, something like admiration crossing his face. She'll try to prove we're fake. She knows me better than anyone. Knows I don't do relationships, and will have to be better than real. Blake stepped close again, his hand cupping her jaw. His thumb traced her lower lip, and she forgot to breathe. When we're there, you don't leave my side. You don't speak to her alone. And if she asks questions, you defer to me. Understood? I'm not your employee right now, Blake. His eyes darkened. No, you're something far more dangerous. Before she could ask what he meant, his lips were an inch from hers. One more thing we need to practice, he whispered. They'll expect us to kiss. Her heart hammered against her ribs. How much practice? Enough to make it look natural. His mouth brushed hers, soft, questioning. Then deeper, demanding. Her hands found his chest, feeling his heart racing as fast as her own. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. That'll work, he said roughly. But the heat in his eyes told her nothing about this was working according to plan. 2 hours later, they pulled up to the Henderson estate. A mansion glittering with Christmas lights, cars lined up the circular drive. Blake's hand found hers. Ready to meet my family? Before she could answer, the front door opened. A stunning woman in a designer dress stood there, a cruel smile on her perfect face. Victoria, darling, you actually brought someone. Her eyes raked over Nilofer with barely concealed disdain. How unexpected. Blake's hand tightened around Nilofer's. Victoria, still here, I see? Where else would I be? Daniel's inside. Your partner. We're all one big happy family now. The venom in her voice made Nilofer's skin crawl. Victoria's gaze fixed on their joined hands. Tell me, sweetheart. How much is he paying you? The world tilted. Nilofer's blood turned to ice. Victoria's words hung in the crystalline air like poison. Excuse me. Blake's voice could cut glass. Oh, please. Victoria laughed, sharp and bright. I know you, Blake. You don't date. You negotiate. So how much? Before Blake could respond, Nilofer stepped forward. Her fear transformed into something sharper. He's paying me in something you never understood. Honesty. Victoria's smile faltered. How fascinating. A cleaning girl with a backbone. How did you Nilofer started? I made it my business to know who Blake's bringing to Christmas. Imagine my surprise discovering she scrubs toilets at his office. Victoria's eyes glittered with malice. Does his grandmother know? Does the family? Blake moved between them, his body a wall of controlled fury. Careful, Victoria. You're here as Daniel's guest. Not family. Not anymore, and she is. This girl you hired? Victoria's voice rose. At least I loved you once. She's just cashing a check. The words hit harder than Nilofer expected, because they were true, weren't they? We're done here. Blake's hand found Nilofer's back, guiding her past Victoria into the warmth of the mansion. Inside, Christmas overwhelmed the senses. Pine and cinnamon, champagne and laughter. A 20-foot tree dominated the foyer, covered in ornaments that probably cost more than Nilofer's car. Blake's grandmother emerged from the crowd. Elegant, sharp-eyed, formidable. Blake? Oh. She kissed his cheek, then turned to Nilofer. "And you must be the girl who's finally gotten through to my grandson. Grandmother, this is Nilofer Starling." The old woman's gaze pierced through pretense like a blade. "Tell me, Nilofer, what do you see in my grandson?" The room quieted. Everyone watching. Nilofer looked at Blake, at the tension in his jaw, the walls in his eyes, and something shifted inside her. Because beneath the ice, she'd glimpsed fire. Beneath the control, she'd felt vulnerability. Ice. Someone who's forgotten how to let people in. Who built an empire but lost himself building it. Who's terrified of becoming his father, but is walking the same path anyway. Silence crashed through the room. Blake stared at her, something cracking in his expression. His grandmother smiled. "She'll do. She'll do nicely." The evening blurred into introductions. Champagne, careful questions. Blake never left her side. His hand on her back, her waist, her shoulder, each touch burning through expensive fabric. But Victoria watched from across the room, calculating, waiting at midnight. Nilofer excused herself to find the bathroom. The mansion was a maze of hallways. She got lost, ended up in what looked like Blake's father's old study. Photos lined the walls. Blake as a boy, laughing. Blake in college, eyes still soft. Blake with his father. Before grief had hardened him into steel. He used to be different. She spun. Daniel stood in the doorway, mid-40s, handsome, expensive suit, Blake's business partner. The man who'd betrayed his dying father. "You shouldn't be here," Nilofer said. "Neither should you." He moved closer. "Victoria told me about the arrangement. $50,000, right? That's what you're worth to him? Get out. I'm trying to help you. Blake Henderson destroys everything he touches. Ask his father." "Oh wait, you can't. He worked himself to death trying to meet Blake's impossible standards." "That's not true, isn't it?" Daniel's smile was cruel. Blake demanded perfection. Nothing was ever enough. His father died trying to prove himself to a son who'd already written him off. "You're lying, am I?" Ask Blake about the last conversation he had with his father. Ask him about the words he can't take back. He left her standing there, doubt poisoning everything when she returned to the party. Blake was on the balcony, alone. She stepped outside into winter cold. "What did my father's last words to you mean?" The question came out harder than she intended. Blake's shoulders stiffened. "Who told you about that, Daniel?" "He said you destroyed your father. That he died trying to meet your impossible standards." Blake turned, and the anguish in his eyes stole her breath. "My father's last words were, 'I'm sorry I wasn't enough.' And I told him he was right. That he'd let me down. Let the company down." His voice cracked. "He died thinking I hated him. And I can never take that back." Nilofer's anger dissolved into horror. "Blake, now you know." "I'm exactly what Daniel said. What Victoria knows? What you've suspected all along." He laughed bitterly. "And you're here pretending to love me for money. Perfect symmetry. That's not fair, isn't it?" He moved closer, grief and anger warring in his face. "Tell me, Nilofer, right now, if I wasn't paying you, would you be here? Would you look at me the way you do? Or is it all part of the performance?" The question hung between them, brutal and raw. Before she could answer, Victoria's voice cut through the night. "Your grandmother's looking for you both. She wants to make an announcement." They returned inside. The family gathered around the tree. Blake's grandmother raised her glass. "I have wonderful news. Blake has finally found someone worthy. Someone real. And to celebrate, I'm signing over my controlling shares to him tonight. But on one condition." She smiled at Nilofer. "Two must marry. By New Year's, 1 week from today." The room erupted in. Congratulations, Nilofer's world shattered. Blake's face had gone white as snow, and Victoria's triumphant smile said she'd orchestrated everything. Blake's hand crushed Nilofer's. As the room celebrated around them, champagne, laughter, congratulations, drowning them both. His grandmother's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. 1 week. Then you'll have everything you've worked for, Blake. Everything your father wanted for you. They escaped to his childhood bedroom an hour later. Nilofer paced while Blake stood at the window, rigid. This is insane. We can't get married. No. His voice was flat, dead. We can't. Then tell her the truth and lose everything. He turned, and she'd never seen him look so trapped. My grandmother will sell those shares to the board. They'll vote me out within a month. Everything I built, everything my father died for, gone. We actually get married? For your company. For $50 billion in assets. For 3,000 employees. For my father's legacy? Your father would hate this. He'd hate you sacrificing yourself for stock shares. Blake's jaw clenched. You didn't know him, but I know you. She moved closer. You're terrified. Not of losing the company. Of admitting you might actually feel something real. Don't. His voice turned razor sharp. Don't confuse 5 days of pretending with insight into who I am. And tell me I'm wrong. Tell me every time you've touched me it's been acting. Tell me that kiss meant nothing. Blake stared at her, breathing hard. It meant nothing. But his eyes told a different story. A soft knock interrupted them. Victoria slipped inside without invitation, closing the door behind her. Isn't this cozy? The happy couple. Get out, Victoria. In a moment. First, Nilofer and I need to have a little chat. She turned to Nilofer with a smile like poisoned honey. Did Blake tell you why we broke up? Victoria, Blake warned. He caught me with Daniel. In his bed. In his home. She laughed at Nilofer's expression. Oh, don't look so shocked. Blake was never there. Always working, always building, always choosing everything over me. Daniel gave me attention, affection. Things Blake doesn't know how to give. You're pathetic, Nilofer said quietly. Victoria's smile sharpened. And you're naive. You think you're different? Special. You're a transaction. At least I was honest about what I wanted. You wanted his money. I'm helping him, are you? Victoria moved closer. Or are you falling for him? Because that's the tragedy, sweetheart. Blake Henderson doesn't fall. He calculates. And when this is over, when he has what he needs, you'll be exactly where I was. Discarded. Used. Wondering why you weren't enough. Something cold settled in Nilofer's chest, because Victoria was right about one thing. She was falling. And Blake had been clear from the start. No heart. No love. Just business. He'll hurt you worse than he hurt me, Victoria whispered. Because you actually believe he could change. She left, her perfume lingering like a curse. Blake finally spoke. Don't listen to her. Why not? She's telling the truth. She's manipulating you. Is she? Nilofer turned on him. Tell me honestly, Blake. What happens after we marry? After you get your shares? Do I disappear? Do we divorce quietly? Was that always the plan? His silence was answer enough. Oh my God, you were going to pay me off and erase me. It's not like that, then what is it like? Explain it to me. Make me understand how this isn't exactly what Victoria said. Blake's composure cracked. You want the truth? Fine, yes, I planned for this to end. For you to walk away wealthy and free, because that's all I can give you. I don't know how to be what you need. What anyone needs. Did you ever consider asking what I want? It doesn't matter what you want. People like me don't get happy endings. We get empires and isolation. I accepted that years ago. It's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's realistic. My father loved my mother. She died, and it destroyed him. He never recovered. Love is weakness, Nilofer. It's vulnerability. And I've seen what vulnerability costs. Nilofer's eyes filled with tears. It also costs something to live without it. Look at you. You have everything and nothing. Then leave. Take the money and go. I'll figure this out myself. Is that what you want? The question hung between them, heavy with everything they weren't saying. Blake looked at her. And for a moment, his walls dropped. She saw the boy in those photographs. The one who'd learned to stop laughing, stop feeling, stop hoping for anything real. What I want doesn't matter. It never has. A knock interrupted them. Blake's grandmother entered, her expression troubled. "Blake, I need to speak with you alone." Nilofer left, her heart breaking with every step. She found herself back in the study, staring at those photographs of Blake before grief had frozen him solid. He'll never change, you know. Daniel stood in the doorway again. "I need you to leave me alone. Have a proposition." "Better than Blake's," he entered, closing the door. $100,000. Tell his grandmother the truth, that this is all fake. That Blake hired you? Why would I do that? Because it'll save you from years of misery. Blake will marry you, use you, and discard you. I'm offering you a way out. With more money than he promised. Nilofer stared at him. "You set this whole thing up. You told Victoria about me? You pushed his grandmother to demand marriage? This was all you." Daniel's smile confirmed it. "Blake destroyed my life when he froze me out of the company after his father died. Now I'm returning the favor. He'll lose everything. The company, the shares his grandmother's respect, and you'll walk away rich. You're asking me to betray him? I'm asking you to be smart. He'd do the same to you. He's probably planning it right now." Nilofer's mind raced. Blake's words echoed. "I planned for this to end. $100,000. Her father's medical bills, her debts, a new start. All she had to do was tell the truth. Or choose the man who'd made it clear he had nothing to offer but money. I need to think about it. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, his grandmother signs the shares over, and you'll be trapped." He left her standing there, drowning in impossible choices. She returned to Blake's room. He sat on the bed, head in his hands. "My grandmother knows," he said without looking up. "Victoria told her everything. About you being my employee. About the arrangement. About all of it." Nilofer's blood turned to ice. "What? She's giving me until morning to come clean, or she's cutting me off completely. Selling the shares? Destroying everything." "Blake, I'm so sorry Daniel offered you money. To betray me." Finally looked up, and his eyes were empty. "Are you going to take it?" The question hung between them like a blade. "How did you know about that?" "Because I know Daniel. And I know you're smart enough to realize I'm not worth the risk." She moved to him, kneeling in front of him. "What if you are?" "Don't." His voice cracked. "Don't make this harder than it is. Take the money. Save yourself. I'm not worth saving." Nilofer took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "What if I don't want to leave?" And for the first time since they'd met, Blake Henderson let himself break. Blake's control shattered. Years of walls, of frozen emotion, of carefully constructed distance, collapsed in a single moment. His hands found her face, pulling her closer. And when he kissed her this time, there was nothing fake about it. "I can't do this," he whispered against her lips. "I can't let you sacrifice yourself for me." "Then don't." Nilofer pulled back, meeting his eyes. "Let me choose. For once, let someone choose you. You don't understand what you're choosing. A man who told his dying father he wasn't enough. Who drove away everyone who ever loved him. Who doesn't know how to be anything but alone." "I understand perfectly." Her voice was steady, certain. "And I'm still here." Blake stared at her like she was something impossible. Something he'd stopped believing in years ago. "Why?" "Because somewhere between the boutique and this moment, I stopped pretending. And I think you did too." The confession hung between them, terrifying and true. Blake's forehead pressed against hers. "I don't know how to do this." "How to be what you need? Figure it out as we go, together. If we do this, if we tell my grandmother the truth, I lose everything. Not everything." Nilofer's hands tightened on his. "You lose the company, the shares, the empire, but maybe you gain something better. There's nothing better than what my father built." "Yes, there is. A life. A real one. Not one you're building to prove something to a ghost." Blake flinched. "You don't understand. I understand. You're about to make the same mistake he did. Dying alone, surrounded by success, with no one who actually knows you." Her voice softened. "Is that really what you want? Another 40 years of this? Of walls and isolation and pretending you don't need anyone? The question broke something in him, because the answer was no. God, the answer was no. But admitting it meant letting go of everything he'd built his identity around. I'm terrified, he whispered. Me too. They stayed like that, holding each other in the darkness until dawn crept through the windows. Morning came, brittle and bright. The family gathered in the dining room for breakfast. Blake's grandmother sat at the head of the table, Victoria and Daniel beside her, both wearing expressions of barely concealed triumph. Blake stood, Nilofer beside him. His hand found hers, steady and sure. Grandmother, I need to tell you something. The room quieted. Nilofer and I aren't getting married. Because this entire relationship started as a business arrangement. I hired her to pretend to be my girlfriend. To meet your ultimatum? To save the company? Gasps rippled through the family. Victoria's smile widened. Daniel leaned back, satisfied, but Blake wasn't finished. I did it because I'm terrified of becoming my father, of dying alone, of wasting my life building something that doesn't matter. His voice strengthened. But I was already becoming him, just in a different way. I was so focused on protecting myself, on avoiding vulnerability, that I'd stopped living entirely. His grandmother's expression was unreadable. Then Nilofer walked into my office, and for 5 days, she made me remember what it felt like to be human, to laugh, to hope, to believe I could be more than the sum of my worst moments. He turned to Nilofer, his eyes holding everything he'd never said. You asked what I want? I want you. Not as an employee, not as part of a deal, but as someone who sees me and chooses me anyway. That terrifies me more than losing the company ever could. But I'm done being afraid. Tears streamed down Nilofer's face. Blake faced his grandmother again. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I tried to manipulate the situation. And I understand if you sell the shares, but I can't marry someone for business. Not anymore. Because I finally understand what my father never did. Nothing is worth living without love. The silence was deafening. His grandmother stood slowly, walked to Blake, and slapped him across the face. Everyone froze. Then she smiled. About damn time. What? You think I didn't know? Blake, I've known you your entire life. The moment you walked in with this girl, I knew something was different. Fake or not, she'd gotten under your skin. She turned to Nilofer. And you, dear? Walking away from $100,000 to tell the truth? That takes real character. Nilofer stared. How did you... I'm old, not stupid. Daniel approached me with his plan weeks ago. I played along to see what you'd both do. She looked at Daniel with cold contempt. You're fired. And if you ever contact my grandson again, I'll destroy you. Daniel's face went white. Victoria grabbed his arm, and they fled the room like rats from a sinking ship. Blake's grandmother turned back to him. The shares are yours. No conditions. No marriage requirement. But understand this. You build that company into something that matters, not just something that makes money. You make your father proud. And you hold on to this girl like your life depends on it. Because it does. She kissed his cheek. Now, I need more coffee. This family is exhausting. She left them standing there, surrounded by family members who were now smiling, clapping, welcoming them both. But Blake only saw Nilofer. So, he said softly, no money, no contract, no pretending. Just me. Still want to stay? Nilofer laughed through her tears. You're offering me a man who doesn't know how to feel things, will probably frustrate me daily, who's going to have to learn how to be in a relationship from scratch. That's the offer? Then yes. Absolutely yes. Blake kissed her, and this time, everyone was watching. This time, it was real. This time, it was the beginning of something neither of them had believed possible. When they pulled apart, Nilofer whispered, What about my debts? My father's medical bills? Blake smiled. I'll pay them. Consider it an investment in our future. Because I'm not letting you work night shifts anymore. You're going to finish your degree. Find work you love. Build the life you deserve. It sounds suspiciously like you're trying to take care of me. Is that allowed? Only if I get to take care of you back. Deal. They left the estate that afternoon, driving back to the city through snow-covered roads. The radio played Christmas songs. Blake held her hand the entire way. What happens now? Nilofer asked. Now, we figure it out. Slowly. Together. I'll probably mess up a lot. Probably. And you'll call me out when I do. Definitely. Blake glanced at her. Something soft in his expression she'd never seen before. I know I said I don't believe in love, but I think I'm starting to. Good, because I'm way ahead of you. He laughed. Actually laughed. And Nilofer realized she'd never heard him do that before. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. 6 months later, they stood in the same mansion. This time for a real celebration. Blake had transformed Henderson Tech into a company that valued people over profits. Nilofer had gone back to school, working toward her master's degree. They'd moved in together, built a life together, learned how to love together. Blake's father's photograph sat on the mantel. Blake touched it gently. I wish you could meet her, Dad. She saved me, the way Mom saved you. Nilofer wrapped her arms around him from behind. He'd be proud of you. I know he would. I hope so. Outside, snow began to fall again. Christmas lights glittered against the darkness. And Blake Henderson, the man who'd sworn he'd never believe in love, held the woman who'd taught him otherwise. They'd both been broken. Both been afraid. Both been convinced they'd never find something real. But sometimes, the best things in life start with pretending and end with truth. The end.